Oh, I was checking what the bloody episode number is.
I told you, 65.
No, you said 64.
I did, but then I looked it up.
We're 65.
Yeah. Or is it 66?
Don't. It's bad enough as it is. I don't need any help getting confused.
I think it's 65.
He knows better than we do. That's just tragic, isn't it? 65. All right.
Good evening, listeners. Welcome to episode 65. Hello, Ben. How are you?
All right, mate. I'm fine, thanks.
Good. So tonight we have Jason, aka Valbjorn, with us, talking all things sculpting, beards and cloaks, etc., etc. Really cool, actually. So definitely, if nothing else, go and listen to the community section because he's with us throughout. But there's some great stuff about sculpting in there. So we go onto the hobby desk, find out about what the three of us have been doing over the last couple of weeks. Then into the Galaxy of War, where we talk about the Imperium magazine and the Water Guild. Into the Mortal Realms, where we're talking about a dude with a flipping rat cloak. I mean, what is going on there? Deary me. Into community, where we chat to Jason all about his sculpting. Some real gems in there, definitely. And then into the wilds, where Ben, we talked about it like 10 minutes ago, man. What was it that you said?
Loot Studios.
Loot Studios. We discussed Loot Studios. Very memorable. It is too. So, guys, you know what to do. Grab some refreshments. We will see you on the hobby desk.
Hi guys, and welcome to episode 65. And today we are joined by the awesome Valbjorn, or Jason. We'll call him Jason today, I think, because Valbjorn could get a bit confusing for us. Nice to have you along, Jason.
Hello.
So we're going to go through what we've been working on at hobby desks to start with. Do you want to start, Dan? Because you've been up to some Legion this week, haven't you? Got your big guns done.
I want to hear from Jason, really, because obviously we got to know Jason through some rather awesome sculpting.
Yeah.
And although unfortunately it was on completely the wrong army initially, he's moved along to some. He's moved on to some more sort of orkoid things that he showed us the other day. So I think it'd be great to hear a bit about Jace. What kind of got you into the hobbying side of things, and why did you decide to tackle green stuff? Because I know Ben enjoys doing it, but I have to be honest, I'm just like basically get my crucifix out and start screaming at the stuff. So be interested to hear why you did that to yourself.
Absolutely. There's such a love-hate relationship with green stuff that I see across the community. I tackled green stuff years and years ago. When I was right out of college, I was building a Warhammer Fantasy Chaos Warrior army, and I saw the I think they're like Chaos Hounds and Chaos Marauders, and the Marauders came with horses, and they looked like little ponies, and I thought, man, those are not chaos enough, so I threw them on the backs of the Chaos Hounds and gave them all giant beards, and I still have them sitting on the shelf. They're shamefully primed black, but they set up there as a reminder of kind of like my first step into the green stuff pool. So that's kind of where I started, and then I took a really long break. Oh God, I don't even want to count the years, but I got back into count the years between Warhammer Fantasy pre Age of Sigmar and 8th edition 40K. So that's kind of where I came back in. So last year I started seeing some Space Wolf stuff and started collecting a few models and jumped right into 40K and decided all my Space Wolves needed to be big Vikings with no helmets, and and here we are. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm from with all that kind of stuff. So,
and the Marauders were metal ones, weren't they? So that's not an easy conversion to do. It's
yeah, they were metal, and the Chaos Hounds were plastic. I remember there was a lot of filing and green stuff and all that stuff. So yeah.
And what's on the desk in front of you right now, man?
So it's funny. The last time we talked, I was working on Orks, and I'm back on Marines now. Just kind of what I pulled off the shelf. Lately, I've been very sporadic with what I work on. But I was telling Ben I just bought the Assault Intercessor box, the multi-part kit, and was pleasantly surprised to see no less than 11 bear heads inside, which is just a gold mine for a guy like me who likes to sculpt beards and hair on my models. So yeah, I spend a lot of time cleaning sprue lines, and we talked about that before, but yeah, so it's kind of therapeutic for me. I just sit there and just pull the kit apart and start cutting pieces out, cleaning the sprue lines, and start thinking about how I want to put them together. So yeah.
Are you an instructions kind of guy, or are you take them all off the sprue and go for it kind of guy?
Oh man, it's changing. I used to be to the letter with instructions. I've always been, growing up, I was I would buy the game guide for the games I was playing, and the player's guides, and read all the instructions. I loved Lego as a kid, just because it's you could open the instructions and see exactly how you needed to put the thing together. I loved that. So when I discovered Warhammer, I was like, oh, I'll just follow the instructions. And the more I started looking at the models, I realized, oh, well, when I see the same model over and over again, take these new, like Ragnar, for instance, the new Ragnar model. Absolutely love the new Ragnar model. He's so cool looking. But after a while, you see the same Ragnar over and over and over, and you're looking at the paint jobs, which is great. Like, I love a unique paint job. But what I realize is when I see a model that's kit bashed or changed in a way with green stuff, or just move an arm or cut a leg and tilt it one way, it's like, ooh, there's so much more information now that I can digest and really get into and learn about. And so I've been trying to break myself out of the follow the instructions habit, and just start cutting stuff off sprues, laying all my guys out on the table, and then just picking one and seeing how it goes together. And sometimes it will bite you when you're like, oh, I guess I shouldn't have used that leg. But yeah, so I'm trying to break out of that and to just go for more of a free flow, cut everything out and just piece it together how I want. So yeah. How about you?
Well, with conversions, I tend to, if I get a box the first time, I tend to put it together with the instructions, and then after that, just go do it how I want. So I get an understanding, because sometimes there's bits that need to go on before other bits, and there's a reason why things are built. Especially nowadays, they're not always as obvious as they used to be.
They're kind of made to go together a certain way, aren't they?
Yeah, and it's dead easy to convert them. You just need to understand which bits need to go together, and then which bits you can change.
Right.
So yeah, I've always kind of done that. I used to get the first one put together was the Games Workshop's store one. So I'd put it together for the store, and then I'd do mine however I wanted. Having learned how to do it from the store one. So
must be nice. Yeah. Cool.
I'm totally an instructions guy.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah. That's why I love building Lego. I don't.
Nothing wrong with that, man.
I think. I mean, it's partly because I'm always on like this mission to do X project and then do the next project and the next project, and I in my mind I'm like thinking armies and big forces and terrain collections, and so I'm just kind of trying to get them built and crack on. I will mix it up though. When I did my Khorne Berserkers, because the Khorne Berserker models are not the strongest in the Games Workshop range, I got out the hacky saw and started cutting things up, and I did like some mixed possessed Khorne Berserkers, but I tend to stick with the plastic components that I can find as opposed to pushing the boat out like you guys and getting the old green stuff out. Although that might change now that I've got a 3D printer, just do it that way, because I've done a bit of playing around with the sculpting, the 3D sculpting stuff, and I quite enjoyed that, so I might do some of that, I think.
Cool. What program are you using for the 3D sculpt?
Well, to be honest, so far I've just used Mesh Mixer and then the slicing software. So all I've really been doing is taking meshes that people have made, and then so Gareth Nichols, who did the Forest Dragon War Master scale stuff, a lot of his meshes are all different sort of shells, and you can separate them out and then move them around and manipulate them to get what you want, like change the banners and stuff. Sweet. Like that. And like Ben found some STLs for some little ravens he wanted, but they were stood on like a perch, but he didn't want the perch. And so I went in and like took the perch out, fattened up the claws a little bit just so that they weren't so brittle, and then printed them out. So it's only simple things at this stage. But I've also got...
sounds dangerous, man.
Yeah. Well, I've got Blender to have a look at, but I'm thinking like at some point, maybe when I've got a bit more time again, it would be great to jump onto some kind of tutorial thing and learn a bit more, because and I've spoken about this on other podcasts, but like what I love about 3D printing is this idea that you can sculpt something and then save it, and then you can just print as many as you want. Yeah. And also you can do really basic things like click a button and it mirrors it or flips it or puts it upside down. So, even if you're buying an STL, you can usually get 3 or 4 poses out of just a single STL with literal clicks of the buttons. So,
and if you get savvy with Blender or ZBrush or whatever you're going to work with, you can bring that in and make all kind of changes and stuff like that. So,
Blender is insane. When all the videos that do really well, like the most recent one is Raptor, which is insane. It's made on Blender, and it's almost cinema style.
It's very superb. Powerful.
So yeah.
So what have you been doing, Ben?
So since we last spoke, I did paint that Venerable Dreadnought. It took a little longer than a day, a bit longer than I expected, but I was really happy with how he turned out. That's the first Dreadnought I've painted for Space Wars. That size. I painted the Redemptor and really enjoyed that. So I basically did a similar sort of thing. But with these Dreadnoughts, there's so much detail on. With the Redemptor, you've got to really focus on those big plates and getting the armor sort of looking right and the transition blends all looking good. Whereas with the older Dreadnoughts, it's a little bit more forgiving on the armor, because you've got so much, especially the Space Wolf one, because you just got so much hanging off of them. There's so much to cover up the armor. So yeah, Tristan loves him. Every time he comes in here, he's like, "Oh, he's wicked." As a 9-year-old's doing.
Well, he's a giant robot with a massive axe and a shield.
Yeah. Oh man, what's not to love?
Exactly.
Unfortunately, I finished him and very nearly went out and bought 2 more Dreadnoughts, so I could have and have Murderfang and another one, because I just think it's brilliant. I just love Dreadnoughts.
I'm looking forward to a Wolfen conversion Dreadnought. myself. Sounds fun.
Yeah, you would make an awesome job of a Murder Fang.
Man. Well, I'm running that. We talked last time. I'm committed to that successor chapter thing, so I've got to. I got to do that. Wolf and Dreadnought.
Yeah,
I can't have any named characters.
No,
I guess he could sit on the shelf, but yeah.
And then what else have I done? So finished models. I painted that. What's he called? U something 025. UR 025.
From Blackstone.
Yeah. So he went on
the Warhammer Community Hobby Roundup, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, really chuffed with that. It's completely different how I normally paint stuff, but I didn't have much time to do him. So I signed up to the London Marathon again this year in a moment of insanity. So I started to start training now to increase the number of miles I was doing. So on Sunday, I did a fairly fast-paced 12-mile walk, and then watched Iron Man 2 with Tristan, which was amazing. And then realised I only had the evening to paint, and that normally on a Sunday I get most of the day to paint. So I figured I'd find something that I could do in 4 hours. And I've been looking at the Warhammer Quest stuff and thinking I really should paint the damn things, because I keep buying Warhammer Quest and not painting it. So I figured he would be a good place to start. So he was just started with a brown base, then put on what's it called? The chipping fluid, but the not the full chipping fluid. The what's it called? The sort of not quite heavy chipping.
Worn
effects. That's the one.
Yeah,
and then airbrush him up through basically the same colours as I normally do my Orks, but didn't go so bright. So Steel Legion, and then Carrack Stone, and then Pallid Witch Flesh, and then toned it back with an oil wash. Did the chipping, and did the blue, and I think it all came together. And chose the orange because it contrasted with the blue, and it worked real nice. So I was quite happy with that. I don't think I'll be able to do the rest of the Blackstone Fortress guys in 3 hours each, but be nice to be able to. But I don't think it'll happen. So yeah, I did him, and I've been working on my Space Wolf batches coming on. So when we were hanging out on Thursday, or was it Wednesday? Wednesday. One of the days.
Wednesday.
Wednesday. I got the yellows on with those, and I've done the oil washing and pin washing on those guys. So they've come a long way now. So it won't be long before I think I start peeling those units off and finishing them. And somebody asked how I did my Space Wolves. And if you guys don't mind, I said I'd talk through how I do that process. So if that's okay.
I don't mind if there are people out there that actually want to play Space Wolves.
Basically, when I do these Space Wolves, I start with a grey base, usually Halford's grey primer, and then do a zenith with white, and then work my way up from a rust grey up all the way to Fenris grey, and then bright at the top. And then this is all with the airbrush, zenithing it further up. So up through rust, then Fenris, and then Fenris through an airbrush, the airbrush Fenris, which is lighter. And then a sort of undershade, so coming from the bottom with the Fenris, the Space Wolf Grey contrast paint. Now I find that works really well. So that gives me kind of the starting place for the armor. Then I block in all the browns using whatever brown you want to do. The gold I use Balthazar gold. Metals I use Vallejo metal color steel, because Vallejo metal colors are just superb metal paints. I absolutely love them. It flows so quickly. They're airbrush paints, and their pigment is so high. The coverage is insane. I use that. And then
they're ace.
The yellows I start with the XV88, go up through Avalan Sunset, and then Uriel Yellow, and then a tiny bit of Flash Gits, not very much at all. Reds is the Corn Red, and then up through Wazdaka, and then finally Wild Rider Red. Then I do all the lining in. Now I start with a watered down bit of Space Wolf grey, just to sort of get a general shading, and then I do an oil wash with Payne's Grey. Is how I do that now, and that's real quick.
That's some of the first time you've been doing oils.
I have. I used to do the lining in with a 50-50 mix of blue and black washes, but that just doesn't pin. It virtually looks exactly the same as Payne's Grey, and just doesn't capillary up through the things because it's not an oil wash. So because it's an oil, it just capillaries up.
Yeah.
Everything apart from the armor is I normally give a wash of Agrax and then just start highlighting up. But I don't overwash with Agrax. I just go into the sort of details on the yellow, so I don't have to build it up.
Yeah, it's funny that I remember. Like, sorry to cut in. I just think it's a point. Like, I remember talking to you a couple of years ago now when I was painting the Iron. What are they called? The Blood Bowl Orc team.
Yeah.
And Gouged Eye. And I was talking about how, so their trousers are like a Rakar flesh, and then you put an Agrax wash over it. And I was like, oh, it's ridiculous. I put it on and then I'm having to spend ages building it up. And you were talking about, either using like a thinner wash or a more targeted technique. And I did that the second time around, and it just sped the process up so much. And I think, like, because the Citadel system, as it used to be, was very much like base coat all over wash. That's just what I was doing.
Yeah.
And actually, when I took on board like your points about using the washes in a more targeted manner, definitely sped things up.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the last thing I do is highlight with blue horror on the armor. First Fenris grey, and then blue horror, and on the edge of the armor, on the edge of the yellow, dawn yellow. And I only do that where it would make sense. And the golds and the bronze, I just go up through the new bronze I use. What's it called? The new one that they've just released.
Rune Lord Brass.
Rune Lord Brass, yeah.
Yeah, it's like the ultimate transformation, isn't it? It's a bit like those shows where they get someone and they do like a mega makeover from the old Rune Lord Brass that was just
rubbish,
shocking to the new one, which is actually just amazing and is now a staple of most of my paint schemes.
And I'd sometimes do an edge of an aluminium kind of color if I got a bit of time, feel like it. And then all over everything once it's done goes thinned down streaking grime, which I lift off on the raised areas with a cotton bud to give it that kind of muted look across it. And I find that because I do all the highlighting first and then do that, I find I get the pop and the kind of realistic effect that I'm looking for. So yeah, that's how I do that's my general approach to my Space Wolves.
I think you might have to write that down.
I will do, yeah. But I did promise I'd go through it quickly on here, so I've done that now.
Do you know how I paint Space Wolves?
You don't? Red with gold trim.
Exactly. Red with gold trim.
I got there.
Yeah.
And today I've been sculpting, so I've done some beards because we have the Master of Beards on the show. I thought I'd do
some most excellent beards, I may add. Very nice work.
The Master of Beards. I love that. Like the Master of Coin or Master of Ceremonies. Yeah. No, Master of Beards.
That's pretty much what it says on your account. I sculpt beards and hair. And so I love it.
Yeah, Fenrisian beard fabricator.
Yes.
My sole purpose.
To be fair, like I bet the Space Wolves will have someone that's like properly versed in the lore and meaning of beards.
Oh,
Yeah,
of
without
course.
doubt,
Yeah,
yeah.
the beard
Beard
scald. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've also done the shoulder pad and finished off the boot claws for Ragnar. I've just got to do the ears on the shoulder pad, and that's done. And then you can start coming together and being painted. And I'm also working on a commission of Bear Eater.
Oh yes, Hamilcar.
Yeah,
Is that him? Yeah.
So I've done his fur cloak today, and I can't remember the name of the model I based him on. Dan, you probably remember.
The Lord Castellan.
Yeah, the Lord Castellan. So I changed his leg position so it looks like he's stepping up onto a skull. So
That sounds so familiar, the Lord Castellan.
So I've been tidying that up.
He's got a great big axe and a lantern.
Awesome. So I've had a sculpty day today. I find with sculpting, I tend to have multiple things on the go because while one's curing, I move on to the next thing and then work my way around like that. Otherwise, end up sitting there for hours watching it.
Yeah, we don't want that. Have you listened to? You may have listened to it ages ago when I first lent it to you, but I'm sure Hamilcar. I don't know now.
Hamilcar?
Is it Hamilcar? What is that? His name?
I'm going to Google it because Bear Eater Stormcast.
I'm sure that character, anyway, even if it's not, he's still the bear. It turns up in one of the audiobooks.
It is Hamilcar. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
He does turn up in one of the, those audiobooks I lent you.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's in one of those. You should listen to one of them and get in the zone, in the Hamilcar zone.
Hamilcar the Hungry.
Yes. Yeah. In fact, you've got to kill the bear to eat it, so it's pretty good going.
So he is tough.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. So that's me. Bit of a mixed bag. I'm still working out what I'm going to paint tomorrow. Might paint a Iron Priest, maybe.
That's my vote. That's my vote. I've told you that.
I've also got what's his face on the wolf ready to go now?
Canis.
Yeah, yes, it. Canis Wolfborn. There he is. Look.
Yeah. Oh, on his wolf that ate too many steaks.
Yeah,
he's chunky wolf.
He's metal as well, so he's like.
He's metal.
Yeah, if you dropped him off the table, there's every chance you'd be going to A&E if it landed on your foot. He's a substantial model. Yeah. So I might. I
love his lore. He was a cool one to read about.
What I like about him is he doesn't talk, or hardly ever talks. He just grunts and snarls. And
have you thought of sort of channeling his style at all?
Well,
I think it would be good for the
work out
listeners.
for the podcast. Very good.
I don't
know.
Didn't he show up at the Fang before he was a space wolf, like with a space wolf at his feet, like he defeated one in combat?
Oh, did he? I didn't know that.
Like,
really?
Yeah.
That's
so
insane.
If I remember correctly, a space wolf goes out to do his, initiation trial or whatever, and they don't have armor on. They're just, before they're initiated in, and he gets bested by Canis Wolfborn, who shows up on riding a Thunderwolf with the space wolf in tow, knocked out cold. And they're like, holy shit, who's this kid? And he's, of course he's like, nice. Yeah, I want to say that's 8th edition codex or something like that.
So
I could be way wrong.
Sounds
Let
about
me
right.
believe. Yeah.
Sounds about right. He's I don't know quite how he gets past his tactical training. He wouldn't last in another chapter, would he? It's lucky that the Space Wolves can interpret grunts and snarls and work.
Oh yeah, and
work as
in
a
the
team
case
with
of
that.
in the case of Murderfang, they just freeze him with the Hellfrost ray when they're done with them.
Yeah, just
Right?
stay out of his way.
Yeah.
Point him in the general direction and then run.
Yeah, they de-thaw him, point him at the enemy, wait till everything's dead, and then freeze him again.
He's really cool
God.
in the
God,
in
it's so cool.
the Fenris sector campaign books. He's really cool in that because obviously they're hunting the wolf and trying to gather them up before any other chapters get hands on them, and they end up in a trap, and the Grey Knights show up as well, and they're kind of looking at him like, "What, Grimnar? What is that?" He's like, "It's a dreadnought." I don't know what you mean. It's clearly not a dreadnought, Grimnar. The guy is raving lunatic.
Yeah. Slathering, raving lunatic.
It's great.
Love it.
So how about you, Mr. Jolly?
Well, I have been a little bit flitting around again.
Yes.
I know, not like me, I know. But I've still got the same sort of two main things on the go. So I've got my Nurgle that we were doing for the Taylor Gamers, completely and utterly failed to achieve February's goal of doing another battle line.
You didn't even try.
I did.
You did not. You got utterly distracted by Legion and just get.
Yeah, I did get distracted by Legion, but also work went a bit balmy, and I just haven't done as much time hobbying this year. By this point, my year-on-year hobbying quota is significantly down on where it was this time last year. But I'm enjoying what I am doing. So I've done a bit more on those guys now, those Nurgle. So their armor's all done, and I say it's done, all base coated and like chipped and stuff. And then I've done all their like rusty weapons, and I've started putting all the base coats on. So I'm almost at the stage now. I've just got a few more bits to go back and just touch up, and then I'll be glossing them and going in with the enamel to knock them back. And once I've done all of that, it'll just be the skin to do and the bases, which are quite involved. They're quite big. So I'm hoping that over February I'll do them. Because I'm not the only one. There's only Dan is the only one that's managed to achieve the goal. And seeing as the only hobby Dan does is Age of Sigmar. Although, to be fair to him, he has also painted an ME262, just randomly jet.
Yeah, I saw that. That was good.
Which was cool. So, so he's the only one. So what we've done this month is we've called it a catch-up month. So you just paint a character plus catch up with whatever. So I'm painting the Lord of Afflictions that I started anyway.
Yeah.
And catch up with these. And then so next month I'm going to need to really do another battle line, because I'll have 10 Blight Kings in one unit, and then I'll need another unit. So
Remind me again. Are you going from a Mortal's army or a mixed Demons Mortal army?
It's funny you should say that. So the next thing I was going to say is I'm either going to go with the Puskoil Blight Lords, which are like the Blight Kings that are flying around on flies.
Yeah. Get
like 4 of those as a little unit, because they're really expensive. Cool. They are cool. They're wonderful models. They're 190 points for 2. So they are whopping. Yeah. But that's fine.
Do they pack 190 points worth of ouch?
Yeah, I believe so. They're pretty good, especially alongside the Lord of Afflictions, because his command ability lets them move in the hero phase, I think. So, or double their move or something. So they go 16 inches before they charge. So that's quite good. They've got lots of attacks. So
dang.
But obviously your model count's very low. Or I might go with like something like 30 Plague Bearers or something.
Which would be a dead easy unit to paint.
Well, that's that's one of the things as well, because it will allow me to experiment a bit more with contrast, which I'm enjoying at the moment, and a bit of Zenith. Although what I've noticed with contrast is and I, by no means am I any master at painting, but I find sometimes I muck it up by trying to be too stark with the zenith, because if the contrast is such a different color over the light color versus the dark color, that you need the gradient needs to be a bit more steady. Is what I've found anyway. So I've been doing them a little bit on and off. They just sat there looking at me like, come on, paint me, I'm Nurgle. But pew pew. It's all I can say, because the game that I'm not collecting just keeps calling to me, and it's suckered me in. So I've also painted this month an F1.4D P Tower laser cannon for the Rebel Alliance, and the E-Web gun for the Empire, for my burgeoning Legion forces. So because I'm basically painting 2 armies at the same time for those guys, and with them I'm really enjoying them because I'm just keeping it super simple. So there's almost no edge highlighting and stuff. There's a bit on the black because I did the Death Troopers.
Yeah,
you needed to have a little bit on there, really. But in general, it's just all contrast work, bit of weathering. The bases I've done like the crackle paint with a few tufts and stuff just to make it stand out. But the thing is, the miniatures are quite simple in themselves. They're fine. They look like what they are supposed to be, but they aren't. They aren't Space Marines. With all the crisp lines and stuff. So, in many respects, they really benefit from a more simple painting style, and even things like with the Empire, because they're obviously armored. I'm choosing to use a satin varnish, but with the Rebels, I've gone with a matte varnish because it just changes the overall look. And on the table, they just look fine. They look like nice, neatly painted forces. So I'm quite enjoying that. And because, as I said, I don't have a great deal of time at the moment for painting. It's really suitable. So I painted up the 2 laser cannons, which was quite fun. And now I'm working on, what I did is, because I'm basically skirting around buying the starter set, because I can still try and claim that I'm not really collecting, because I'm just buying all the bits around the starter set. So namely, part of the reason for that was because Chris has the starter set. So the thinking was that if I get little random other units that aren't in the starter set, when we eventually can meet up and play a game, we can put it all together. But so what I've done is I've bought the Stormtrooper upgrade pack and the Rebels upgrade pack. So they're like the specialist troopers and they're like captain and stuff like that. And because you get 4 in each one. Now, in the starter set, if I were to buy that, you get 14 Stormtroopers and 14 Rebels. And in a standard game, you need 3 units, 3 core choice units. And so I'd be able to make 3 units of 6 of each once these guys go in as well. Just saying, that
you're setting yourself up for success, is what.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and I spent a couple of nights. Sorry,
you decide to buy it. Yeah,
exactly, Jason. Yeah, that's right. So I've spent a couple of nights looking up the assault. I can't remember what it's called now. GAV flipping death assault tank thing that is in Rogue One that the Stormtroopers have, and is just the weirdest looking tank.
Because you can't get hold of the ATST, and I think that's a crying shame, because the ATST is for me. I remember seeing that because I watched Return of the Jedi first, before Empire Strikes Back, because my grandma had Return of the Jedi and didn't have Empire Strikes Back. It's as simple as that. And I used to watch it in my nan's house. And the ATST for me was just like, as an 8-year-old or a 6-year-old, whatever, I just thought that was the most amazing thing in the universe.
Yeah, so you were right.
It is just awesome.
Yeah, I do. Obviously, I do want one of those. But yeah, I'm quite enjoying. Although, and this is like one of the things that shows the real value in what Games Workshop do. So, I wanted to look up what the markings are that the stormtroopers wear, because they wear the little pauldron thing, different colours. And maybe I was just being an idiot with Google, but it took me a long time to find anything. And even what I did find was very small. There wasn't loads. And I genuinely expected, because I was in my Games Workshop brain, just to put in stormtrooper markings and there to be a load of colour plates of stormtroopers stood there like Space Marines, with like, this is where the markings go. This is where the number goes. This is where this goes.
Yeah, it goes to show you I don't want to say we're spoiled, but
we are. No, absolutely.
Yeah, anything that's out there that you want to know about the companies and the way that they're laid out, and how many of this in a unit are in this company, it's like, oh, that's right at your fingertips, and it's so great.
Yeah.
I'm actually really surprised that isn't the case with Star Wars. I mean, it's such a massive
me too
thing,
As I say, I did find some stuff, and like there was some stuff around like the size of a Stormtrooper Legion. So it was like, it's something like 9,756 Stormtroopers or something like that.
Why?
Because they come in like units of 8, I think it is, and that's how it worked. I can't remember, but there was a range as well. It wasn't always that many. It was between that and.
I just can't be dealing with that. It's like we get the COVID vaccine sent in batches of 970 something. It's like, why don't you just send it in batches of 1,000? Why?
Yeah.
Why have you done that? Why? And you make an odd number out of the vials. It's not an even number, so it just drives me mad. It absolutely drives me mad.
Yeah.
Legion should be 1,000 stormtroopers.
Yeah. So that's pretty much what I've been doing. Oh, and I built a massive Lego rocket.
Yeah.
Why not? That's what some of the hobby budget went on this month, because and it's all because like Joshy had been really, really good with homeschooling, so we decided to get him
to treat him,
like last month. Yeah, the end of January. And that's when like we were in the Lego aisle and Joshua chose like a road sweeper and Daddy looked up and there was an X-Wing. I was like, ooh. So I got that. And then this month, again, really good with his schooling and what have you. And he chose like a Lego City Space Force like shuttle.
Yeah. Which
was sweet. And we were building it. And of course, Daddy's like looking it up and there's some cool stuff for that. There's a rocket launch control thing. And there's a big rocket that goes around on the back of like a tracked vehicle and then rises up and fires up into the air. But of course, I'm on the sort of Lego site and there's a bit like adults welcome.
Yeah.
And I'm like, unlikely to be dodgy, being that this is a Lego site. So I'll go on there. So I went on there and
when you see adults welcome on the internet.
Yeah, you never know, do you? You never know. And
you're like, don't mind if I do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I've tried to cover up there, but actually I was like, whey! But and I'm scrolling down through and there's some awesome stuff, man. There's some awesome. They've got
Sweet.
Hogwarts Castle, right?
Yeah.
Like 3,500 pieces. 350 quid, mind, but it's absolutely superb. So I'm going through, and then they do have a Millennium Falcon, but that's like £650, and so is the I know, and so is the Star Destroyer. I mean, it's huge, but they had the Saturn V rocket, and oh mate, it's so good. It's so good. It's got it actually does separate out into the stages.
And
the book, the instruction book's great because it's got like a couple pages on the actual Saturn, the actual Apollo program. And
nice.
Then it's got
that's cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. And then it's got a bit about the designers who designed the Lego model and how they sort of came up with it. And then
the Mustang one was like that. It had loads about the Mustang. I really enjoyed sort of working my way through and have a little fact about the Mustang as I was putting it together. I like that. Yeah,
it's awesome. And it's even got like they said when you read the bit about the designers, and the whole thing is scaled based on they made a really tiny lunar lander and they wanted it to fit in the nose cone as it did, and so the rocket's built around that, so the lunar lander fits in there, and you've got all the different segments, and it's really cool because like I knew that the Apollo missions put man on the moon, but I definitely know more now from reading that, just those little snippets about the thing. And like I say, it's as tall as Joshua.
Yeah, it's huge, isn't it? I saw a picture,
which is just epic. And we had a lot of excitement the last sort of 3 days. We've been building it in the evenings or in the afternoons, and it's been brilliant. It's been great fun. So not quite the standard hobby desk content, but it was good.
It's good hobby desk. I've been eyeing up the Ghostbusters car.
Oh yeah.
I'll tell you what I've been doing lately is I've been following. I followed a hashtag Scratch Built recently.
Oh yeah.
And I've been seeing this really cool, some of it's 40K, some of it's just guys wanting to make little scale models of stuff. And God, I've just been seeing the coolest stuff of people building little like garages and houses and engines and all that stuff. And I work in a fabrication shop that's in the back of it sounds gonna sound funny, but it's a foam factory. They basically cut up foam for swimming pools and stuff like that. And so you can it is just a literal playground of scratch build terrain material just laying around everywhere, corrugated cardboard and paper and tubes and all this stuff. And I've got this little cubby at work. I feel like a little pack rat every time I have to stop myself from bringing stuff home because we work with a lot of metal and all that, and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to bring home more than a small cardboard box. And I've been pack ratting away terrain materials, being inspired by these guys that are making these little houses and stuff. So yeah, it's been fun.
Awesome. Be like the Johnny Cash of scratch building with his multi-part Chevy.
Yeah, one piece at a time.
One piece at a time. One of my favorite songs. I love that. My favorite bit is when his wife comes out and she's like, "What's that?"
Here's a 59 Yep. So I've got one shelf in the hobby desk that it's a big shelf, but it's like if I can't overload more than this shelf with terrain stuff, I'm gonna have to start throwing away stuff soon. So yeah.
Gotta love a terrain bits box. It's amazing what ends up in them. Awesome.
Should we go to the Galaxy of War?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. Welcome, listeners, to the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, made all the much better by a solid helping of beard. So we've got Jason with us. He can stay with us through the whole podcast, hopefully, if we don't put him to sleep. I don't mean like put him down or anything. I mean like through boredom.
Like a bad dog.
Euthanize him. Right, anyway, yeah.
We had to put him down. He bit someone. We had to put him down.
So, a few things to cover off this evening. So, where do you want to start? What did we talk about? Oh, the magazine.
Yeah. So, Hatchet Partworks have announced the next 40k serial magazine. So, they did Conquest first, and then Mortal Realms is still running, although it's coming towards the end. And now this one's called Imperium. So, basically, what it is it is a binder collection where you buy the magazine, and the magazine has got one of those kind of magazines that you can tear the pages out. They're kind of glued together, and then you sort of assemble them into a collection that has background and has how to build the models that you get with the collection, how to paint them, and then a bunch of scenarios for you and how to play the game, teaches you how to play the game. Now, I think I think these are I've very mixed opinions about this, but I'm going to share my overview very quickly. I think overall the product you're getting is pretty awesome, actually. So you're saving hundreds of pounds on models, like hundreds of pounds, for the collection. So in Conquest you've got Space Marines and Death Guard. In Mortal Realms you've got Stormcast and Nighthaunt, and in Imperium, the new one, you're going to get what I think is really cool. You're getting a mixed Imperial army of Space Marines, Sisters of Battle, and Mechanicum.
That is pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a really good idea, actually. And that's fighting against Necrons. If you take aside the fact that if you're already into the hobby and you fancy increasing your collection of those two forces, it's a really good way to sort of have a drip feed of those models coming into your door once a month, that will bulk up those forces nicely for much less than you would pay for them if you were going into the store. You also get a bunch of hobby stuff with them, so like paints, brushes, all that kind of stuff comes in various issues. So I think there's a good value there for great value there for people who are already collecting. If you collect those armies, you can go premium, and you get a small sample of a bunch of other armies. So with this one, you would get Chaos, Tau, Orks, and Tyranids. You get a small collection, so £2 extra an issue. You get a small collection of each of those. I think where this really comes into its own, and I've only really kind of grasped how awesome this is as I've got towards episode or issue 50 of Mortal Realms, which I've been buying entirely because I have a Stormcast collection and I have a Nighthaunt collection based on the Soul Wars box set, and I thought it'd be an awesome way to build those two forces up, and it has been just that. It's been brilliant. But I've been sort of putting together the magazine collection mainly so that the kids had something to reference, actually. Mm-hmm. If you're a beginner, this is, without a doubt, in my opinion, the best way to start this hobby. It is without a peer. It is absolutely brilliant. So every week you get a bit of background, mainly about what model you're getting on the front of the box, front of the issue, and then you get how to build it, and the instructions on how to build it are super clear, really easy to follow, and then you get how to paint it. But how to paint it is done based on the paints that you get with the set, and it is built up over over the series. So to start with, for example, with the Stormcast, it was just this is how you prime it, and then this is how you base coat it. We're now on to this is how you highlight it. So you'd go back and you'd highlight all the stages of blue, for example, if you've got the blue highlight color in that issue, or red. This one of the recent issues you got Wazdaka red and Wild Rider red, and it showed you how to highlight red, and then you would go back and highlight your collection. So if you followed it each week and did not like a great amount of hobby, you would end up with two absolutely superb collections of Necrons and Imperium, or in the case for the Mortal Realms one, Stormcast and Nighthorn, that would be painted to a nice standard because you'd have followed it through a bit at a time and not been overwhelmed by it. And you've got these scenarios in the back which teach you stage by stage how to play the game. I can't think of a better way to do it. I really can't. I think it's absolutely the best way to get into the hobby. So if anyone's listening and thinking, oh, how would I get my 12-year-old into the hobby? I can't think of a better way. I can't. I really can't. And
this is first issue, just £2.99.
Yep.
Your first issue, you'll receive a Primaris Lieutenant, a Royal Warden, a small mat, 6 dice, and a ruler. So
yeah.
I don't know why at first glance I thought this was some other. There are just so many other games that run parallel to 40K. I thought, is this a different game? But this is just a way to drip you into 40K slowly.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
Gotcha. Wow.
And that
is a
issue,
steal.
Yeah, that first issue is nearly what, 40 quid's worth of model?
Oh, easy.
There's 20. So let's say 25 quid for the Primaris, and okay, so let's say 15 quid for the Necron because they're not normally as expensive, but that's still 40 quid's worth of model. And the other thing mentioned that you do get like a ruler and you get dice, and you get play mats. They're cardboard play mats, but if you were starting into the hobby,
but still kitchen table,
and you get scenery. The collection includes scenery. So it really does. By the time you finish, you would have it's 80 issues. So over the course of a year and a half, you would have a gaming table made of cardboard, but you could glue it down to something. You could flatten it out and make it look pretty nice.
Is it the cardboard like the ones that you get in the?
No, it's much thinner. It's like the ones you get in the starters kits.
Okay.
It's like a play mat rather than a. It would be super awesome if they were the like Killzone stuff. That would be amazing. But it's not as robust as that. But
you know what this reminds me of? You remember back before everything was just right at your fingertips with the internet, you could just go on and order everything. You could go onto Amazon, watch whatever show you wanted to watch. As a kid, I would eat my dinner and then look forward to The Simpsons coming on at 7:00 at night. It was like that was what I just loved doing that. Yeah. And I'm imagining being a kid now, and every week they send you stuff.
They send it once a month if you
once a month. Even still, it's like if you can, like, I don't know. I would love to go back and do it this way. I think it would be fun.
Absolutely.
So, I like the model. So yeah.
Now
sounds fun.
The cons, because I said I was mixed feelings. So I don't think the price. I think the price is excellent. It's £1 more expensive this time than it was for the previous two. So it used to be $7.99 and now it's $8.99. That's $8.99 a week. So it's the price of a lunch, basically, in this country, from a Tesco's.
$8.99 lunch at Tesco's. What are you eating?
Just what, a sandwich, packet of crisps.
Meal deal, man. £3.50. What are you like?
No, the meal deal's the crap. No. All right.
Lunch at Subway.
Subway. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What I don't like, and I have struggled with a lot, is that Hatchet Works are an odd company. So to start with, I signed up to it. And I hadn't paid a penny because I'd signed up for like the pre-release thing. They do this weird thing where you sign up and then they never send you an issue, and then they cancel the order and you have to re-sign up again. And they did that, and then they sent me like 2 months worth of magazines without me having to pay a penny. And I was like, well, I haven't agreed to do that. I only agreed to I agreed to the first issue. And then they would randomly cancel and restart my order throughout. Now, I have to say, they have, when I phone them, sorted it out every time. But with other people, they've had real issues, I've read, where they've ended up with 2 or 3 subscriptions, and it's just been completely bizarre. About halfway through the collection that I'm on, the Mortal Realms collection, they have updated their website, and since then it has been a lot easier to understand and see what needs paying. But it has been odd. It has been really, really strange.
So they've got some problems to sort out, it sounds like.
They have got a few problems to sort out, yeah. But I wouldn't trust doing it the alternative way, which would be to buy it from the news agent. Or
oh no, that would no.
Because you'd have to sort of get them to put aside the issue every week, which a lot of news agents would do. They'd order it in for you, and you could put it aside every week. I'd do that, but I would definitely not trust going into Asda and picking it up, because there's some of these issues have got an obscene amount of value for £8. You know, you're talking like I said, 40 quid worth of stuff. For example, with the Mortal Realms one of the issues, the first issue was £2.99, and it had a 30 quid set of chain rasp on the front. So people bought like 6, and then scalped them on eBay, which is just what people do.
That's always an issue, a problem. That's just a bummer.
One of the other cool things about this is that there is a unique model. It's a Space Marine captain, comes in issue 5. There's been similar ones for the other 2. It's the only place you'll get it, and it's a very nice model, actually. The last one, the Mortal Realms one, was sculpted by Gareth Nichols, and it's one of the best Stormcast ones, I think. So yeah, there's lots of pros to Imperium, and I have to say, if you're thinking of starting or knowing someone who's starting, I honestly can't think of a better way of doing it.
I'm really irritated because like I kind of glanced, I saw that pop up somewhere. I think Ross mentioned it, and then I had a quick look and was like, no, clicked off it. Now you've been talking about it, I'm like, oh.
I know. And so just to give you an idea of what you get, for the Space Marine set, you get the Sisters of Battle box set that we had before, which is a 10-man squad of Sisters of Battle, Penitent Engine, a Sister Superior, the Repentia, and 3 or 4 Sisters Repentia, the Archoflagellants, 3 for Archoflagellants, and I think I saw in there you got the squad of the flying ones as well, the Seraphims, 5 Seraphims.
Are the Sisters Repentia the ones that have the huge 2-handed chain swords?
Yeah.
I like those models a lot.
Then you get the Recon getting started for the space, the Primaris. So the infiltrators, 10-man infiltrators, the 3 sniper dudes, the 3 jump pack dudes.
Where have you seen all this information?
All on the website. It's all on the website.
What website? I'm on the Hatchet Partworks website.
Yeah, if you go onto the picture at the top, it shows you the contents of the box set.
No, all I can see is Disney cross stitch right now.
No, so go to the Imperium website.
But this is a great example of what you were saying. Yeah. I am on the landing page for Hatchet Partworks, and I cannot find information about what you're talking about. You got to
go, if you type in Imperium magazine, it will come up.
Just ridiculous.
Yeah. So you get the Phobos sort of getting started set. You get Gilliman. You get You get Gilliman. You get Calgar and his bodyguard. You get the ATV, the Outriders.
You're selling them.
the little gun turret. You get the one of the Magos, the big tech priest Magos, the big one, but that isn't the special character one. And then you
this
get
is how much a month?
$8.99.
No. It's $8.99 an issue.
Yes,
so it works out at about £36 a month, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, value-wise, it's just incredible.
Yeah,
it sounds
it's
pretty
just
good.
whether you want to make the commitment of 40 quid or your local equivalent a month. In fact, can you get it outside the UK?
I think you can. I think you can get the you've got the other ones outside of the UK. Yeah. So basically, just to give an idea, so if you got everything in there, it would come to £1,242, but the cost of the magazine collection is £701. So you're saving 541 quid.
It's a good value. It's just is that what you want, But if you're someone who wants to go along for the ride and have it fed in like that, then God, what a deal!
Yeah,
what a deal!
Yeah, and I'm sure there's things I've missed off with the Imperium side, and the Necron side is the equivalent. It's the equivalent. So I
guess the other thing to consider as well is like we said this with the last two actually. So if the RRP is 1,240 quid, you can. There are definitely sites doing stuff for like 25-30% off anyway.
Well, 25, yeah.
Well,
yeah.
So,
but it's
pretty
the
interesting though. Yeah, it's a pretty interesting model.
But I think you're looking at it just from the perspective of a person who's already collecting, and I think you're right. You probably could get all of those for that price. You will save an obscene amount on some of the issues and not so much on the others. I think where it comes into its own is if you are even remotely a beginner.
Yeah. And you don't have an army.
And you don't have an army, and you don't know how to play, and you don't know how to play. It is streets ahead of any other way to get into the hobby. It's like having a store member, a staff member in your house teaching you how to do it. The only way I could see it being done better,
all the extra info they send to you.
Yeah. I think the only way I could see it doing better is if they did video content that went alongside it. That could be, I think, the only way they could do it better. But that would cost a lot of money. So,
I mean, that issue 1 is just insane, isn't it? For $2.99.
But that's the strawberries that are on sale when you come in the store.
I know, man.
I don't think there'll be many of them left.
I know. I got sucked up by the they did the book collection a few years ago, and if you got all 80 of them, the cover art made like an awesome piece of art, and it was all books from like when I started out in the hobby, and I was like, I'm going to get that. It's £800 worth of books by the time you're done, and
wow,
there were several times where I was like, I shouldn't be doing this, but then I was like, but I can't stop now because I'll only have half the collection. Or I'll have half the bloody. It's a bit different with this because obviously, unless you like stop in the middle of like, I think in the last one you had like an issue came with half the Primaris repulsor and something like that, didn't you?
Yeah.
Did you do the 40k one? You did.
I didn't do the 40k one, no, and I kind of wish I had done now, but I did the Mortal Realms one. The reason I didn't do the original 40k one was because I wasn't collecting Death Guard. I had no intention of collecting Death Guard. But with the Immortal Realms one, I already had a painted Nighthaunt and painted Stormcast army, so I figured, why not? I mean, the fact that you get Guilliman in this it's just insane, frankly.
Oh, look. So you get a free set of cutters, glue, and some kind of... Oh, that's a scrapey tool, isn't it?
Yeah.
Then you get a binder and dividers with your 3rd delivery, 3 brushes with your 4th delivery, and a painting handle with your 5th delivery. art prints with your 7th delivery. So that's a month. One delivery is 1 month, isn't it? I suppose. So by the 7th delivery, you've definitely committed. But then, yeah, I guess it's like you say, I can't think of a better way to start in the hobby. It's just amazing. Amazing.
The step-by-step painting thing is and the step-by-step how to play is absolutely brilliant. It's just brilliant.
So that's pretty awesome. So also cool things, the Water Guild for Necromunda.
Really cool models.
Yeah, that's such a nice range. There's 3 dudes, isn't there? There's one that's really skinny, really different looking from that point of view. There's the kind of over the top-ish looking leader of the band, and then you've got the massive suit. And oh my goodness, he's I can't remember what the name of it is, but basically they drop into the sumps of liquid to fix stuff. I mean, that would be terrifying.
Subnauticans.
Yeah, I mean, oh my goodness.
I think it's an ogrin, isn't it?
Well, I thought that. I wasn't sure. I mean, it's big like an ogrin. I said that. I said to Chris, do you reckon it's like a person in a massive suit or a big ogrin? Excuse me.
What I love about this is with these 3 is that the ogrin or the big suit looks very Imperium, but it definitely looks like they've been getting black market tech from the Tau. and then the other 2 definitely look like they've been getting black market tech from the Eldar, which I absolutely love about Necromunda. Is it gives you this insight into the fact that although the Imperium just despises all other species, officially, on the quiet, all these high at the top, that's an interesting piece of technology. How much do you want for that? And the Mechanicum just can't do anything to stop it, because they couldn't, could they? If you think about it, there's no way they could monitor everything. So that's one of the things I love about them. That suit, the big suit, is absolutely brilliant.
I like the idea that. So I read about this somewhere. I think it might have been in House of Blades, possibly. But the guy, not the leader or the suit, the other one.
Yeah.
He's got a staff, and it says something in the article, it says rumors are that it can drain the water out of people.
Oh yeah.
And that's literally what they do to get water sometimes.
That's a bit like that lady from Aquaman.
I haven't seen Aquaman.
Yeah, one of the other members of the royal family can just control water. He can talk to water animals. He can't control water like she can, but she can draw water out of people. So she doesn't use it as a weapon. I did think when I was watching it that could be fairly sinister if she fancied using it in the wrong way. Just dehydrate someone in a snap of a finger. I do love Necromunda. I really do.
I'm a little bit afraid to read any further into it. Otherwise, I'm going to start collecting another army.
The thing is, it would suit you so much, man, because you get all the individuals who can really personalize it up as well.
Yeah. Really cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, you should do Orlok. You should do a big hairy gang of Orloks with massive, great big beards. In fact, I'm going to do it before you. So that's how I'm going to do my Orlok now. They're all going to be Fenrisian bikers. They're going to...
You should do bearded Escher.
Bearded Delac would look quite weird.
I'm down to do bearded anything. I'm putting beards on orcs.
Yes, this is true. Yeah, I do like him, and it's nice to see the guild. Nice to see the guild coming in.
That's the first guild, isn't it, that we've got?
I think so, yeah.
Unless you count the corpse grinders.
Yeah, but they're not really a guild, more a gang of loonies.
It's a bit disturbing that a gang of chaos worshippers is basically providing the food for the whole.
Well, yeah, no. They're the chaos ones are the ones that have kind of been sent a bit wild by this idea that their day job is blending up their mates into a paste to feed the rest of the hive. Which, to be fair to them,
it's pretty wrong, isn't it?
Yeah, that would muck you up a bit, wouldn't it? So yeah, you don't want that. What was the other thing? There was one other thing. Oh, Dark Eldar Codex, talking about weird and
So the rumor is that it's going to be the Drakari Codex for the end of the month, which is quite exciting. We were talking about it'd be nice to see a couple of models to go along with it.
Yeah,
maybe a character or two.
Yeah, I don't know that we will, if I'm honest.
No,
because I can't remember seeing anything like Rumor Engine or anything around Dark Eldar models.
I'm kind of a lot out of sync with the Rumor Engine, to be honest.
Cult of Paint, annoyingly, did a really good sort of how-to army painting guide for 3 different schemes of Dark Eldar. I only say annoyingly because, like, it just...
You wouldn't need much convincing, would you?
No, because they were like the first army I did, Dark Eldar, and it would be great to revisit them. And they do some really good, like, Zenith stuff and pin washing and come up with... It looks really ace by the end, and I was like, oh, I'll just get one box of them to try. That's what I'll do, I reckon.
And there'll be the army you're not collecting.
And there'll be another army, another game, another army I'm not collecting, obviously. So
one box set would be cool, though, to just sort of do a couple and tie yourself back to your roots.
Yeah. Don't you start.
Sorry, man.
That's not helpful, is it?
No, it's not.
But yeah, you're right. That would be ace.
Shall we head on over into the mortal realms then?
I think we shall.
Excellent. All right, welcome to the Mortal Realms. After a somewhat epic Mortal Realms last time, which went on for an hour, we haven't had anything in the last 2 weeks.
Well, we've not had a lot. There's another Broken Realms fiction.
Yeah, there's another Broken Realms. Did you read it? I haven't read it.
No, I haven't read it yet, actually. So that's like a no-go. I don't know why I brought it up, but I know Chris was saying to me it's like proper dark. I think what he said was that is proof that order doesn't necessarily mean good.
No.
So, yeah, that's going to be worth a little read.
That's one of the things I took away from that Inquisitor book that I listened to the audiobook.
Callus and
Toll, yeah. That Inquisitor was not. He was good. If he was on the side of order, but how he got there was sometimes a little bit suspicious. Dubious, yeah. But so we've got the new model Monday, which I really, really like. So every Monday they're going to show us a new model. Which I think is awesome, and I think that
and apparently it could be like anything.
Yeah,
from any of the games.
So Monday we had Rat Vampire. So a guy who was almost killed by a vampire and chucked into somewhere and hid in a corpse cart with rats on it, and. and because he was nearly killed by the vampire, actually became a vampire, but now wears a rat cloak, and he's got this cape with little rat tails sticking out the back. It's really quite horrible.
It's quite cool, isn't it? It's like he's got like a really imperious look going on.
Yeah, like
vampire rat style icon. It's Kritza, the Rat Prince.
Yeah.
Looking at him now. Wow. Ooh, God, his cloak with the tails. Ooh.
It's real creepy, isn't it?
So creepy. The
apparently,
cloak is pretty sweet, though.
He can turn himself into a swarm of rats.
Yeah, that's his thing.
So he could hide pretty much anywhere in mortal realms, then, could he? I wonder if he's got a relationship with a Skaven. That's what I thought when I first saw it.
Surely, right?
Do you think so?
I don't.
They might hate him though, as like a blasphemy against the horned rat.
That's true. That's true. What I'm interested in is what is he for? I'm assuming that we're going to see. Well, the implication is soon that we're going to see some form of vampire book. I think is my feeling.
You just need to ask Dan Wasley. So he basically wrote a list of what he thought we were going to see on that review last time, and it pretty much, I think there was one thing that he said that didn't come up. So he's clearly got his finger in loads of AOS pies. So you just ask him, he'll tell you. I bet he'll be like, yeah, it'll be this.
Yeah,
it's going to be soul bite vampires. It's all good.
Yeah, that's what I think we're going to get.
They're vampires, so one would guess it's going to be vampires.
I also think we're going to have a death rattle book, though.
Do you?
Yeah, I do. Because they were talking about that with that death rattle lord in the preview. They said there was going to be loads of models, other models.
Oh yeah, you were right. Actually, yeah, I remember that when they showed the White King.
Yeah. So I think they're going to see a lot of death this year, which would be cool because I think.
In any other setting, that would be the worst sentence. I think we're going to see a lot of death this year, and that'll be cool.
Yeah. It's a great faction.
Especially coming from a GP. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. It's a great faction, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is a great faction. Yeah. So other than that, I don't think we've seen much, but I was very lucky enough to pick up or get my hands on the original Warhammer Armies book. What I love about it is it's written by Nigel Stillman and friends. It actually says that on the front, which is great. So this is the original Armies book from for Warhammer, and we've been having a look at the artwork, haven't we? And it's just amazing.
Yeah.
So good.
Some of it is so bad that it's kind of inversely becomes good because of how bad it is. But there's what I've enjoyed doing is seeing where things kind of started from. So, for example, a ball rider, orc ball rider, was called a grunter, which is clearly where the gore grunters came from, for example. But it's really cool.
It's great looking back at things like that. I think it's can be quite inspirational.
Yeah, absolutely. Because one of the things looking at this was looking at the high elf section, and I was really taken by the high elf section. Actually, apart from whoever previously owned this is coloured in the eyes on all of the elves in this drawing. Which
what colour?
I've only just noticed with a biro. Outrageous. So they've ruined the picture, but like they're drawn in a kind of quasi-realistic way. So their armor just looks like fine chainmail, whereas nowadays elves are painted to look like super shiny and bright. Whereas actually, what the elf spearman on here just looks like he's wearing sort of a dark age suit of long mail like the Normans would have worn, with a big round shield and a tall kind of leaf spear with a a pointy helmet that looks more like the Babylonians than it does like a high elf helmet. And yet altogether that looks really. He clearly looks like a high elf, and it's where they got like the high elf design from. But I was looking at it and thinking, actually, it would be quite cool to paint high elves in a more kind of normal looking way rather than go for like the brighter kind of almost luminescent look. It'd be quite cool to paint them, in a way that made them look realistic. I always quite like the fact that the high elves used to have war dancers, which I really liked.
Yeah.
But they're kind of all the unit names in here are exactly the same. So the silver helms are in here. The ship's companies obviously now have become the Lothern Sea Guard. Seekers. The Empire I absolutely love because you could not recognize any of this. The only one in here that I recognized was the Reichsguard. But let's see if you can work out what these units are. So, Armbrust Schuxton.
Handgunners.
Crossbowmen. Ursat Soldier.
Oh. Great swords.
No idea, but it's a swordsman by the look of it. You might be able to get this one. Hellblitzen.
Hellblaster?
A halberdier.
Oh.
Whatever. Hohen Sknex.
No idea, dude.
It's a knight on horseback. Hack Boots Scootsten. It's great, isn't it? That's a Scootston. Yeah, it's a handgunner. Oh, this one you should be able to get. The Reichskanon Batterien.
Las cannons.
the cannon batteries. And the fledglers, which are the flatulence. So yeah, basically just I think they've got the names and turned them into German. What's cool looking at people's armies is they just look like they've gone to historical ranges and just bought like historical halberdiers and stuck them together, and that's their Empire army.
Well, they probably have.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
Start somewhere.
And the same for the Bretonnians. I love the Bretonnians. Yeah, all over the old world, knights look to the Bretonnians as a model of chivalry and knightly virtue. Indeed, it's universally accepted that the Knights of Bretonnia represent the pinnacle of the warrior ideal. It's great, isn't it? Absolutely great. The Norse are in here too. I really like the mercenary section in here. So it's where you get all the smaller stuff. So the Kislevites are in there. The Finmeers are in here. This is all kind of the mercenary sections. The Norse are in here. The Norse dwarves, which is where I found that got a couple of Norse dwarf models that I didn't realise were Norse dwarves. Pygmies, don't see them anymore. So it's a real kind of gem actually of old Hammer. It's what I really like is through a lot of it you get these banners, pictures of the banners. I'll show you a picture. Oh, there, it's just coming to pieces completely now. So pictures of the banners, and I'm really tempted to use them in my armies now.
Yeah, go for it.
Because I think I love using old stuff reimagined. It's one of my favourite things to do.
Oh yes, it is.
Yeah. So there we go. That's been the little hobby jam. What I'm going to do, I think, is post little bits of it, photographs of it, on our social media over the course of the next couple of weeks.
That's a good idea.
Little snippets for people.
Yeah, please do. I love seeing that stuff.
Because I just think it's really cool to see where things came from. I think it's really cool. So yeah, that's a little bit that's not Mortal Realms, but it is Warhammer Fantasy.
Yeah,
it's interesting because
if you integrated some. Oh, sorry about that. If I was going to say, if you integrated some of the banners and stuff into your current army or whatever, post some, this is where it came from, part of the story or something. That'd be really cool.
There's a really good orc banner that I was gonna. The Snotling Punt Wagon's in here. I still can't get over that guy's the previous owners coloured in their eyes. That's just sacrilege. Oh, where's that orc banner? Oh, here we go.
Rage.
I'm not going to be able to find it now. Oh, here we go. Your doom cometh, man. Things spelt backwards. It's really quite fun.
That is good. It's it's great at the moment. I'm really enjoying the snippets of Old World.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, because it was doing the Warmaster stuff, and it kind of got me thinking about it. But I really feel like more than ever, like now's a good time. Like I think Age of Sigmar has been around long enough to establish itself real well and be a game and a background in its own right. That's fantastic. And actually, there's room now as well to have the Old World without them diluting each other.
Yeah. Agree. Yeah, completely agree. There's so much in there that they could. There's so much of the Old World that they could use and make a really cool game, and bring back to life from these really old books that just haven't been used.
Yeah.
A lot of it got dropped to one side. I mean, a pygmy army might be slightly a bit risque at the moment, but yeah, it's great. It's what's really cool to see pictures of throughout this book has got pictures of some like real famous names like Dave Andrews and Ansel, with their armies, Pete Taylor, guys names that I grew up with, reading the stuff. Kevin Adams with their armies, and they all look young. They look like younger than us.
Yeah.
And now when you see photographs of them, they look old. Looking old. There we go. So unless anyone's got anything else to talk about in this section, we should probably go on.
Like you say, it's like it's sort of now it's kind of waiting to see. It'd be interesting to see what goes up on pre-order, or not pre-order, but what comes up as is going to be on pre-order tomorrow, to see what the next step is. I wonder how far. I can't imagine that the Quest game is that far away.
No,
we've seen so much of it now.
I don't really want to get into a conversation on price again, but having seen the price of the prior Nexus, I'm now somewhat terrified about how much that Quest box is going to be. But I'm going to remain optimistic.
It'll be fine.
You never know.
It's full of dudes. It's all good.
Yeah, better than 12 models.
Yes. Yeah. Right. Okie dokie. Come on then, before you go down that rabbit hole, let's go and take us into the community section. Hail, glorious community! Thank you for staying with us all the way to this point. I've managed to free up enough space on the computer by deleting all of the Space Wolf content to allow us to carry on.
Heretic.
So, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. Obviously, of course. So we were gonna. Well, I'm probably gonna get Ben to quiz Jason because he'll know what he's talking about with green stuff, whereas I'll be like, so it's green. So yeah, we're gonna quiz Jason a bit on his sculpting because it's also. Ben, ask some cool questions.
And talk about your YouTube videos. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
I've always kind of danced around the edges of green stuff, I suppose is the way to put it. So I've done loads of conversions throughout my hobby time and done a bit of green stuff in here and there, normally gap filling, some cloaks on Black Templars, that kind of stuff, and some really bad fur. But it wasn't until I watched your videos that it was kind of like a light bulb moment where your process comes across so well in your videos about how you do things in a step-by-step, really kind of methodical, sensible way that it was like, that's how you do it, rather than smushing it all on at once and trying to sculpt a shape out of a blob. Particularly with the wolf tooth necklaces, that was gold dust. Yeah, real gold dust.
Yeah, when I started posting on Instagram, I really had no plans at all of coming up with any kind of tutorial or making a YouTube channel or anything like that. And I had been lurking on Reddit for a while, just on the 40K community and looking at all the cool work. And then I posted a few things, but I'm like, maybe I'll kick around the idea of start posting on Instagram, like use it as a tool to not just promote myself, but kind of help myself be motivated to continue working on what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And the more I posted, it seemed like I was just getting hammered with messages of, you've got to do a tutorial for beards. You've got to do a tutorial for, like, how did you do that necklace? How did you do that cloak or whatever? And in my mind, like, as I'm working on them, I just think, well, this is just how I do it. It just seems easy for me. How can I make this easy for you? Because I feel like it should be. And eventually I did it out of, I wanted to help people see how easy it can be. You don't need a sculpting background, and it doesn't have to be complicated. So that's exactly what I did. I just sat down and hit record, and it kind of just worked. I had been I did a little freelance work as an editor for video and everything, and I'm like, oh god, this is the last thing I want to do is get, because I did not enjoy editing videos. So I just wanted to do a stream of conscious, just sit down, hit record, make it 20 to 30 minutes long, and just show someone my exact process of what I do. And I'm glad it comes across as easy. So yeah, just mix it good and use a toothpick and spit.
Yeah.
But don't eat it.
Don't eat it. I've noticed, like, looking at the pictures, that now this is going to probably sound really noob question, but there's like almost two distinct types of green. Like, you've got like the darker green stuff.
Yeah,
it's like a lighter yellowy color. Is there a significance to that?
Absolutely. And I'll give my buddy a shout out again. I was talking to Ben earlier in the week about my friend Ralph. He's a Reddit user I found called Ralph King Griffin, and his Instagram is Ralph the Reasonable. And he's the one who kind of inspired me to do the beards that I do. And kind of his process is where I looked to evolve my process. I was doing a beard first and then a mustache on top, and I was getting this, and I was doing just a 2-part yellow to green, and it was mixing up like every other green stuff you see, where it's just that dark green. And I noticed when I was looking at his stuff, all of his beards were very light colored. They almost looked yellow. I was like, I asked him, I sent him a message. I was like, why are your beards this color? Like, is it the lighting? He goes, no, I add a lot more yellow than I do blue, because the blue is the hardener. And yeah, it'll take a little bit longer to cure, but that's a good thing. You're going to get more work time, and it's going to be a lot softer when you're working with it. And when you first start working with green stuff, one of the most frustrating things out the gate is how sticky it is. But they're like, oh, it just sticks to everything. It sticks to my tools.
Except the thing you want it to.
It sticks to everything but what you want it to, exactly. But there's definitely a dance with keeping your tools wet and what lubrication you're using with it. That's a big reason why I don't use Vaseline or oil when I'm mixing my green stuff. Sorry, I guess I'm kind of getting off on a tangent here, but
no, definitely not.
Yeah, the color difference is for malleability, and the softer something is, like if you're working with a really soft clay, you can make a lot more organic looking flowier shapes with that. And so if you mix your green stuff up with a lot more yellow than blue, it's going to be a lot softer. When you push your tool through it, it's going to flow a lot easier. And I feel that lends itself to a much more organic look. Something like hard-edged armor, or actually even I do fur with a straight 1-to-1 ratio. Like all my fur you'll see is a darker green, because I'll start out using the Green Stuff World fur plate as a press mold for fur. Not in all cases. There's some models where I need to blend the fur into a plastic model that already has fur on it. And let's say the fur plate doesn't match up with the plastic model's fur, then you have to go in there and sculpt it by hand, which, that's just another process. But I find that if you mix the green stuff, if you're using a press mold, mixing it just plain Jane 1-to-1 ratio is usually better, because you want it to kind of stiffen up hard and circumvent that. So yeah, that's why I mix it differently for the application. Cool. But yeah, I did kind of want to talk a little bit about some people using oil and Vaseline. Yeah. And there's kind of two schools of thought with that. I've talked to what's his name? I want to give him a little shout. Sorry.
That's all right.
Death by Many, I think. Yes, Death by Many. He's writing an article pretty soon for 28 Mag, which is cool. But yeah, he does great work. Check him out on Instagram at Death by Many. But he swears by Vaseline with his green stuff. And I've seen a lot of guys sculpt with coconut oil or Vaseline, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with using water or spit or whatever. I mean, don't eat the green stuff or lick it, but but the reason I use water is because I like it. I don't like to screw around with it not sticking to the mini. You know what I mean? If you get a little bit of Vaseline or oil in between the green stuff and the mini, to me, it's game over. It won't stick. And then it's not the end of the world. You get a little soapy water, wash it off, and you can start over. But there's also another step that you have to do before you prime. You have to make sure you get all the oil off, or your primer is not going to stick. I don't like to mess with that. And I also like to do layers of green stuff, especially when you're doing fur and blending and stuff like that. If you have a layer of oil on it and you want to put more green stuff on top of that, then you have to wait for it to cure, and then wash it. And then you've got a brush with your soapy water, and you got to clean the oil off. Then you can sculpt more on top so it'll stick. I just like to circumvent all that, just use water, and I can just sit there and sculpt over layer and not worry about it. So that's just my method. But yeah, you can do whatever works for you. So yeah.
Have you got like a set of random implements that you've gathered up over the years or not over the years, but over the time you've been doing it for sculpting, or is it just like your standard sculpting
tool? I definitely have my favorite tools that I use. I have cocktail sticks are my absolute favorite. And they just look like little toothpicks. I've tried sculpting with metal tools. and it sticks really bad for me because I use water, and water doesn't like to stick to metal. It'll just beat up and fall off. And but they're toothpicks or cocktail sticks are commonly made out of cottonwood, which is a really light, porous wood, very soft wood, which holds moisture really well. And I think that has a lot to do with why water and spit work so good for me over using a metal tool, is because that cocktail stick will hold the moisture, and I can sculpt with it longer before I have to resaturate it. And I'll keep a little piece of sandpaper, just like 220 grit sandpaper, a square of it on my desk. And when my because your cocktail stick or toothpick will dull out, and once it gets saturated, it starts to get I guess dull, and I'll just take it and smush it around on the sandpaper and resharpen it. You can only do that so many times before it ends up just kind of falling apart, but it's a toothpick. They're a dime a dozen. I do think that there's something to using wood for organic sculpting that's almost an advantage, at least for me. I've tried using, but at the same time, I've talked to guys, I can't remember his name, Prey 018, Prae 018, has the best fur I've ever seen. And he uses a hobby knife, just a regular X-Acto blade, to sculpt his fur. And it is just incredible looking. But yeah, and he does a completely different method than me, but it's just whatever works. So I just,
I was just going to say I was looking there because he's done like I presume it's a Space Wolf dude with a sword pointed down.
Yeah. Just look at that fur though.
I know it's very fine, isn't it?
It's he's just got a really nice layered look going to it. And it's just fantastic. I was actually going to suggest that to you, Ben. You talked about a cloak that you were doing where you wanted chunkier fur on top.
Yeah.
He does kind of a method. If you scroll down, he did a big Redemptor where he does chunkier fur on one side and then like finer fur on the other.
Yeah.
So it's kind of that look, but yeah, my favorite tool is a toothpick. And then I have a few smaller metal tools just for like doing hard edge stuff, but nothing crazy. Like, I guess I do use a few color shapers or clay shapers that are, what are they? Like an extra firm flat chisel is probably my favorite for doing hard edged armor, or if I need to like redo a hand guard or an elbow pad or something like that to blend an arm, I'll use a color shaper. So
they were a light bulb moment for me for armor plates, color shapers.
Yeah,
so much better than a unforgiving surface like a metal tool. They just smooth things out in a much more like sensible way.
Yeah, you can even use those if you're wanting to do a blend up into existing armor. So that's where those come in. But yeah,
and they're great for saving your ass if you put a fingerprint in something.
Oh, that's another thing with green stuff that people really and I've been who is it? Thunderwolfen. Yeah, he's pretty popular. He does amazing flowing straps that are all over his guys as soul haunters. And the Logan Grimnar I did recently, I used a little bit of his method where he uses a wet paintbrush to handle his green stuff, which is brilliant because there's no risk of putting fingerprints in it. And when you're using a sculpting tool, you're making a deliberate mark in it. But with a paintbrush, you get a really soft flowing motion to it. And you can just like, if you roll yourself out a really thin slab of green stuff cut it out and lay it on a model and just start pushing it around with a wet brush, it ends up just looking amazing. Because with a tool, you have to be really skilled with a tool to make creases and, you know, do all that kind of stuff. And every mark you're putting into it is a deliberate mark by a human being is holding a tool and is like pushing into it. And it's like, okay, well, I see that you made a mark there, you know, and that to me, when you can recognize that, it takes you out of the environment of the money.
Yeah.
But if you can sell it to someone like it's flowing because of wind, not because of a tool mark, that's where stuff like a wet paintbrush can come in handy, where it's like that motion that you're putting into it is a lot easier because it's not a sharp, acute, you know, force being pushed on it. You're gradually pushing it with wet bristles, so it wants to flow naturally. So yeah, absolutely. That was kind of a new tool in the toolbox, so to speak. So yeah,
you're making me want to pick it up and have a go now.
Well, that's the thing, you know. One of the things I was going to say to you is that I definitely notice, because I do keep my finger on the Space Wolf pulse a little bit, not the rules side of things, but certainly the modeling side of things. And when you came along and did those videos, there was an explosion of people having a go, because I think it must have been like a dozen or so people did it. And then everyone would be like, oh, how did you do that? And they were all like, oh, I just watched this video. And then it just sort of spread. You could watch it ripple out. And the bottom line is, you just got to have a go. Well, I would say, if someone wants to do beards or hair or fur, watch your video and have a go. Because there's a point that you made that I think is worth its weight in gold. If you don't like it, let it dry, peel it off, do it again. You haven't lost anything. You haven't lost anything other than gained practice. So,
that's exactly right. That's the beauty of green stuff, is like the moment you don't like it, just set it aside, let it cure, pop it off, and start another model, or just, you know, peel it right off. It's great. So you're never ruining anything with green stuff.
And people say that. They say, oh, I don't want to ruin my model. And I'm like, well, you're not. You're right. You can just peel it off and have another go. You're never going to ruin it. You're just going to get better at doing it, basically.
Yep. And one question I get a lot that I think would be important to shout out is people ask, how much of it am I gluing on? And I think it's important to understand, if you're sculpting anything on a surface that can grasp itself, like has any kind of an undercut, like if you're making hair that's all around a round head and it's tied into a beard that's underneath the armor, you know, like the shoulder plates and stuff, like none of that's coming off unless you really want it off. So just sculpt it on there, you know, as long as there's no oil or solvents or anything in between the green stuff and the plastic, that's going to stick, you know, so just leave it be. The only time I ever glue any kind of green stuff is if I'm doing a cloak on the side of a big tank. You know, if you have a big surface area and you do you know, any kind of sculpting where it doesn't have anything to grab onto, you know what I mean? Then I've done a cloak on the side of a tank, sculpt it, let it cure, and then you can just pop it off the next day, put a dab of glue on it, put it right back in, and it's like it was made for it right there. So yeah. So that's
sometimes if I can't get something to stick, rather than losing my temper with it, I do put a little blob of super glue on it, and then like sometimes with a strap, for example, if I just can't get it to bite, and know that if I push too hard on it, I'm just going to ruin the strap, I put a little blob of super glue on, and then I can not lose my temper.
Yeah. Another advantage of using water is the longer you work with it and let it set, the more of that water is going to evaporate and the green stuff will inherently become sticky. I've had instances where I've put the ball of green stuff on the top of a bald head and my plans were to create a hairline and start to sculpt hair, right? Well, you get the hairline going, you start to sculpt the hair, and then you realize, oh, a bunch of water has gotten in between the green stuff and the plastic, and therefore it's not sticking. Like, no matter what you do, it's just not sticking. And if you just wait, just even 5 minutes, just set it aside, or maybe just blow on it a little bit and then just sculpt on another part of the model, that water will evaporate out of there and it'll just get sticky in there. And you don't have to like pop it off and try again. Like, just be patient. Like, that's the biggest thing with green stuff, is just be patient and keep working with it. And you'll start to understand its properties and what you can and can't get away with, that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's something I took away from your videos. That, like I was saying about the tooth necklaces, for example, your process, doing one step at a time and being patient. And I think in one of them you mentioned having several on the go at once, maybe 2 or 3, where you do the strap on one and the teeth, and then you'd move on to the other 2, and then you come back and do the little loops, when it was all dry.
Yeah.
That to me again was just like a revelation, because I was so impatient with the way I hobby that I'd sculpt all over the model, and then I'd be putting my finger on the bit on the back, and I'd just be losing my temper, and then I'd just
oh my god, the amount of times I've I do the exact same thing, man. I will make a beard, do a hair, pelt. Like, I'm in a groove right now. I'm gonna do some wolf teeth on the knee pad, and I'll start going at it, and all the while my thumb is just pressing into the beard or whatever, and I'm like, you pull it out, and there's a big thumbprint in it, and it's like, well, I guess I'll just do it again.
Yeah.
But yeah, patience is everything, especially when you're doing really tiny little stuff. Just think about what is going to be a hard edge, what's going to be organic, how is that going to react with each other? Like, if you're doing a strap that's going to have teeth hanging off of it, maybe just do all straps one night, let them cure, and then when you do the teeth and the little other, like, then have all your teeth ready, like, sculpt all those out, let them cure. Teeth are hard. You don't want them to be soft when you're screwing around with sculpting them. So, or not sculpting, but applying them to the model and changing their shape. You don't want them to look like clay. You want them to look like hard bone. So, just think about how it's going to react with, putting it on there, and make a plan is what my advice would be for that. So, yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. And so what's your future plans for the YouTube? Are you going to do any more videos? Or
I'd love to do more videos, because I've been pressed for time lately. But the way I mentioned earlier, the way in which I do videos is very off the cuff. Just sit down for a half an hour and just talk. So yeah, I'd love to do some advanced stuff, or like a part 2. And there's a lot of stuff that, nothing that I'm teaching in those videos is wrong, but there's a lot of stuff that I do differently now, just because I've learned and I've changed my methods. So I think it'd be cool to update some of them with new methods, like the straps, for instance. In those, I put them together with patience and a toothpick. And now I think I would use a brush, like that wet paintbrush method, like I was telling you, maybe let them set up a little, or maybe I wouldn't let them set up a bit, because I don't have to worry about mucking them up with the application, because I'm using a wet brush instead of a toothpick, which is a hard surface, like that type of stuff. Yeah. And there's just different ways that that I explain things now, compared to what I did in the videos. I think creating an analogy to help people understand is important. Like, I'll give you one with hair. If you think about icing on a cake and you run your finger through the top of the icing and you make a line, you've got this kind of clumsy smear, but yet both sides, you're creating like your own little crater, right? Or not crater, but like a ditch. Well, you do another line right next to that icing, and then all of a sudden the first line gets pushed over a little bit. You do a third, and they all start pushing in together, and each line you're making is sort of affecting and influencing the other lines and creating a more organic look.
Yeah.
So you're almost sculpting by proxy. You see what I'm saying? So it's like each individual line, you're making a plan, and then before you know it, you're not planning and you're just going with the flow, and you look at, like before I would look at a lump of green stuff that's smashed on a face and think like, God, how am I going to make this look cool? And now, because I've done it so much, you start to form like it just forms in front of you before you're doing it, where once you make a few lines, then you understand, oh, okay, well, if I make a line next to this line, it's going to make this line look even cooler. So you just keep going with it. And then you start to see, okay, I've got the texture part down, but now I'll start looking at the composition. And like, that's another thing that I feel like people should also keep in mind when they're making organic shapes, like the silhouette of the model, or how is this going to lay on the armor? Maybe don't even think about the texture at all, and work on that later, and just like get the shape that you want on there first, and then start coming in with the texture. Or when you're done with the texture and you've moved that shape all around, maybe you need to let it cure, and then you come back in and alter that shape and change it into whatever you want to. I've had that happen, where it happens with me a lot with hair, because you're moving so much surface area that you initially put the green stuff on in the shape that you want, but then by the time you get the texture you want, it's moved over in a completely wrong direction, and it looks fantastic, but the texture looks fantastic, but maybe it doesn't have the composition that you want on the model. Maybe it doesn't cut the same figure that you want. So you just let it cure and put more green stuff on top of it and fill that space out. So that's another thing you can do. So yeah,
I think that would be nice. I would strongly advocate you not getting rid of the old ones, so that the YouTube videos, sorry, so that with your new descriptions as well as your old descriptions, I think you've then got two different ways of approaching something, and some people will get one way and some people will get another way. Yep. The more like there's not one way of explaining how to sculpt something. There's a million ways of explaining it, and there's a million ways of sculpting it, and not one man can't cover them all. And that's what's so great about the community, at least on Instagram, that I've discovered once I started posting, is there's just so many ways to skin a cat, and so to speak. And it's just so great to be able to talk with people on there, and it's been a really positive experience. So it's great. But I definitely plan on making more videos. I've been doing some commission work, and I don't know, it's been fun, but I guess my goal, I think it would be really cool to be able to have a library of models or of units or something, where it's like, maybe I have a website or something where someone can go and just buy an Eradicator or whatever, where it's like I'm not tethered to a contract or a commission or something. I'm making a piece and then putting it up. But I don't know, it's hard to let stuff go. So I don't know, but right now it's just for fun, and I really do enjoy teaching and seeing growth in other people. So it really means it made me feel amazing to see all of the tags of, I watched Valbjorn's tutorial and I made these beards, and so many people send me pictures of their armies and their guys through the messages, and like, I couldn't do this without watching your video. And it's just so cool to see the growth in the community and people and stuff. It's awesome. So I love it. I'm glad people tag you in it, so that so that you're aware of just like how much of an impact it's had. Because like I said, it was noticeable. It was like a real clear ripple. And I just followed it right the way back to your account.
Yeah, the beard ripple.
The beard ripple, yeah. Yeah, and the beard fabricator is absolutely the best. It's just great. Awesome.
Yeah,
well, I absolutely look forward to seeing any more videos you have come in, because they help me an awful lot. And there's surprisingly few sculpting tutorial videos out there, really. I've always found that when I go to search for how to sculpt anything, there's very few videos out there on it. And there's a few old PDFs, and there's an old kind of sculpting PDF that's been kicking around for a long time that keeps coming up when you search it. But I'd love to see like you create a collection of how to sculpt a space wolf. Here it is.
Yeah,
live from the ground.
Definitely. I'd love to branch out and even try to do more scratch built stuff. Like maybe try to sculpt one completely from scratch without kit bashing at all. Maybe use a polymer clay or something, like an oven baked stuff, and then casting it or something. But yeah, I definitely think there's something to having several, like, for instance, using a fur plate as for the pelts.
Yeah,
it's just fast, easy. It gets you right exactly where you want to be. It's a shortcut, but why not use a tool? But then maybe do another video of doing it completely from scratch. It's just, there's so many. It's like, what kind of level do you want to take it to? So I'd love to be able to kind of just help out.
Well, the thing about the fur plate is, I kind of do both. I do sculpt my fur from scratch, but when you showed how you do it with the fur plate, from that moment on, I was like, I've got a huge barrier taken away to how many wolves I was going to put fur on. Because before it was like, oh, can I be bothered to sculpt fur? Now it's like fur plate, bam, done.
Yeah,
because for the rank,
it's a great head start. Yeah.
It is. It really is. And for some of them, for like your rank and file dudes, if you're doing a big army, do you need to fuss around with it that much once you've got it on there? No, I don't. I'm not sure you do, to be honest, because it works so well.
Yeah, if you can the biggest thing is, I find, is if you can break up the edges, like you use your fur plate, get your shape, kind of like in the video I show how you can kind of scrunch it to give it volume. Once you have it on your model, if you can break that edge up so it doesn't just look like it's a just a round piece of green stuff that's been pushed into a plate, like make it look, like break up the edges, make it look organic, come in with an X-Acto knife and like cut out some little spots, or just go wild, man. Yeah,
brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So if you have we did this to Little Legend, but if you had like 5 top tips for green stuff that you could like bullet point out, what would they be?
Well, the obvious, keep your tools wet.
Yeah.
definitely keep your tools wet when you're working with it. Maybe even above that one is just patience. Just be patient with it. Always know that you can start over.
Yeah.
And references. Look at things that you love, things that you want your model to look like. Do not be afraid to, like, if you need to look at one of my models or one of someone else's models that you like, and you need to just do it, I need to just sculpt exactly this thing, or at least try to, like, don't be afraid to do that. Like, nope, I'm not going to be upset. Like, nobody's going to be upset if you try to just, like, it's not a rip off. It's, just reference is so important when you're learning how to do something. You can't just pick up a pencil and just learn how to draw right off the bat. You have to look at things that you want to draw. You have to, it's an important thing. So, start a folder on your computer and just start dropping things into it that inspire you and that you want to build off of. It's just like with anything else. Sure, there are people that can just drum this stuff up out of their imaginations, but I got to look at other stuff. I've got to look at other stuff that influences me whenever. So, and that's how you come up with new ideas is looking at other people's work and putting your own spin on it and melding them all together. So yeah, keep your tools wet, references, patience. I forget what the other two are. So
you can start over was a key one. Yeah,
you can start over anytime you want. That's a big one with green stuff. Oh, and also don't be afraid to mix up the ratios on it.
Yeah.
That's a revelation for me. I'd never even considered it. And again, it's like getting into the science of green stuff with the different ratios.
Exactly.
But I guess it's just understanding what it is you are working with.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's a time-based epoxy putty. Like it's a chemical reaction that's happening between two pieces of material, that it's a hardener and the putty. And it's like, eventually it will get hard. And you don't need to heat it for it to cure, but it will eventually get hard. And the blue is the hardener. So the more blue, the faster it will get hard. Another thing that's a big, like for beginners, they get frustrated when it gets stuck to their fingers when they're mixing it, or it gets stuck to their tools. Like I keep a jar of water on my hobby desk all the time. I got a little jug of distilled water that I refill it with, and it's just always there for me to dip my fingers into. So I cut my green stuff, I dip my fingers in the water, and I start mixing. And then as soon as it starts to get sticky on your fingers, dip your fingers in the water again and keep mixing and mixing, dip your fingers in the water. Like if it starts to stick to your fingers where the point of no return, where it feels like you have to go and wash your hands, it's not wet enough. You need to keep getting your fingers wet. And eventually you just, you start to know that edge in which you can ride to like keep it sticky. And where it's like you need to initially apply it to the model. There's definitely a sweet spot with keeping it wet where, okay, it's starting to get sticky. Maybe this is the perfect time to apply it to the model so I get a good meld. But then again, you have that wet tool, you keep your little toothpick or whatever it is wet. You're pushing it into the model. It's sticky. Your tool's wet. At that point, like once you're done mixing it, you should never touch it with your fingers. Just get that out of your mind. Try to come up with any way to pick that up, to manipulate it, to get it on the model, and just never touch it with your fingers, because you'll put a fingerprint on it, and if you see a fingerprint on something, that's going to take you right out of the scale. So yeah.
Do you have a preference for a brand of green stuff, or do you just use whatever?
I mentioned Needite is what I've been using lately. It's just a strip of green stuff.
What's your feeling about the middle of that, where it joins onto each other? Do you ever have problems?
Yeah. Some people will, and there's nothing wrong with it. Some people will say, as soon as you get the roll, separate it, cut off the spot in which they touch, because eventually that will get hard there. That is true. If it gets mushed around, like that chemical reaction will happen. I go through so much green stuff that it doesn't really happen before I'm through the end of the roll. And like you said, you can buy the Green Stuff World version where it's in two separate parts altogether. I guess it's good practice if you can cut off that middle part. Sometimes when you're mixing, keep your eye out for little chunks that are in it. What I like to do when I'm mixing my green stuff is I'll stretch it like gum back and forth between my two fingers. And when you're stretching it, you can see if you've got any chunks in there or whatever, and you can kind of pick them out or whatever. But
Yeah.
I wouldn't worry about it too much. But you may have an old roll laying around, in which case it would be good to cut the middle part out. So yeah, there's that.
Used to get loads of it when we worked in Games Workshop, the odd strands of green stuff that would just accumulate in the hobby boxes, and you go to use it and they've been there for the best part of 3 years, and you just have whopping great lumps of cured green stuff in the middle.
Yep. Yeah. And perfect example. Just cut the middle out and you save yourself some trouble. Yep.
Brilliant. Well, that's been really awesome. I'm incredibly helpful. And like we've said, if anyone is thinking of getting into green stuff, especially beards, hair, fur, and stuff like that, check out Valbjorn's YouTube videos, because they really are fantastic.
Yeah,
so thanks for that, Jason.
Appreciate it. Could talk about green stuff all day.
Yeah,
good,
brilliant.
Stuff.
Shall we move on into the wilds?
Yeah, okay, let's do that.
Hi guys, and welcome to the wilds. So I was going to talk about, I've got two things to talk about. I got my Alien roleplay book through the post, so the full rule book, which has been an absolute pleasure to flick through. It's really cool because it's actually the starters box set has got all the main rules in, but I didn't realize that this has got a whole bunch of other rules in, like ship combat and loads more weapons, and the background sections are just insane because it details all of the different troops and people from Weyland-Yutani and the corporations and the life cycle of the aliens and neomorphs, and it's amazing. It really is. It's for, if you're not into role playing, you're just into Alien. It's worth it just for the background.
I'm thinking about picking it up just for the background lore.
It's awesome. Yeah, and the artwork is absolutely fabulous.
I must admit, I was really on the fence between getting you that or getting you the starter box I did get.
No, the starters box set, I'd have got the other one. Whatever you'd have got me, I'd have got the other one.
Yeah,
because they're both absolutely brilliant in their own right. So far, I haven't played it. I mean, look at the artwork for that, Jason. I don't know if you can see it very well. No, maybe not. Like the Marine. Oh, it's brilliant. Love it.
Looks
awesome. I'm very excited about that. We're going to play a mission from that on Tuesday. So we'll have a talk about how that went on the next podcast. But
sweet. Can't wait to hear that.
So the other thing I wanted to talk about is Loot Studios again.
Yeah.
Because their new monthly packs come out, and I've really gotten into Loot Studios, to be honest. So
have you? I hadn't noticed that.
For those who don't know who they are a monthly subscription service where they release a pack of models based on a Dungeons and Dragons or role-playing scenario. So the first month I started it was an orc scenario. So there was a orc camp that the adventurers snuck into. So there was a bunch of orcs and orc scenery. And last month was the 3 hags, so 3 witches. And it was them and a house on chicken legs, which I don't know if you've read The House with Chicken Legs. It's a children's book. It's really good. We read it to the kids last year. It's really cool. So they did that as a piece of scenery. And this month it's called The Oasis, and it's
Baba Yaga, right? The chicken leg house.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. and it's like a wood elfy kind of theme. So there's some forest stuff, and some really cool like Lord of the Rings-esque elves and like elven structures, and a statue head. Look, all the world looks like a Númenorian king, the statue of a Númenorian king.
Yeah,
Like, it's a really, they're really very, very cool. The aesthetic of the whole set I would describe as probably a cross between like more towards the Lord of the Rings aspect, but high fantasy with like a real strong, like a realism, Lord of the Rings realism to it.
Mm-hmm.
So the orcs are very big, almost World of Warcraft like, but they've had a kind of more realistic aesthetic sort of stamped on top of that. So they look a bit more refined, but like the elves and the adventurers all look really Lord of the Ringsy. One of the models you get in the starters pack is a like a rogue or stranger sat on a chair with his legs dead out straight in front of him with a hood on, and he's smoking a pipe. And it's exactly the way that Strider is described in the Prancing Pony. And so I love it. I absolutely love it. And I think for what you pay a month, if you've got a 3D printer or you access to someone who can print these files for you, it's a great way of building up a role-playing collection, because you get all like the player characters, you get a bunch of NPCs and a bunch of bad guys every month. And it's the sort of, it's not always the sort of typical monsters you'd expect. So there's like shambling mounds, and there was one pack a while back called the Magician's Experiments or something like that, and there's cockatrices and God knows what in there. There's all sort of weird stuff. It's really cool. So probably every month I will talk about the new set, because I'm really taken by it, and hopefully we'll start getting some printed off and painted and onto our Instagram feed, because I've kind of always felt like building up a role-playing collection to use for Dungeons and Dragons and, you know, fantasy role-playing. And this is the one out of all of them that's caught the aesthetic has really got me, and I thought, yeah, this is it. This is the one I want to have. They always look a little bit unrealistic, or the proportions have never been quite right for me. But this one, I think they've nailed it. Absolutely nailed it.
So now I have a significant backlog of miniatures that need painting, printing.
And I'll start buying the old packs as well before you know it. And I'll have like, there's a really cool underwater one where it's got like the flowing seaweed and underwater structures and all of the kind of water-based enemies. And I thought it would look really wicked for like scenery pieces for Deepkin and stuff like that. It is wicked.
Just looking at some of what they got, it's just excellent, isn't it?
Yeah, I really think so. They got a 3-month, 6-month, and 9-month loyalty reward as well, and I can't find pictures of them. I don't know why, but I get the 3-month one the 1st of April, so I'm I'm really excited. It's been a long time since I've been sat on a computer pressing refresh, waiting on the 1st of March. It's like refresh. Because I want to see what the pack was like.
I know that feeling.
Yes, but I think the last time I was doing that was when I was waiting for my exam results.
Shit.
So, yeah, I'm really excited about it, and I'd encourage people to at least go and have a look. Yeah. So that's me. That's my Into the Wilds.
Oh, awesome. I've talked about Legion loads, and that's pretty much the only wild thing that's going on. So I'll find something new. What would be quite cool is if anyone's got any suggestions.
Yes.
That's what I need, is suggestions of more games to play.
Well, I don't know about the actual game, but the minis are awesome. I saw this game in my game store called Hate. I believe it was a Kickstarter only game that popped up, and then I don't know if it's in all game stores or if it's in just this chain that's in my area, but it's a campaign game. There's these war bands that all fight against each other. It comes with 72 minis, I believe, and it's $100 for the base game, so pretty good value. But the sculpts are amazing. They're, I think, 20 of the warlords, which are big. I want to say like 3-4 inches tall. So they're big. They're like Primarch size, Warhammer scale. And then a lot of these other little guys, but they had them laying out in my game store open just so you could see the minis. And I just immediately was drawn to the barbaric look of them. They're covered in skulls and fur and horns and everything that appeals to a Space Wolf fan. So I just immediately saw all the different types of fur that was sculpted on them and thought, oh, this is applicable. So I picked it up, if not just for the minis to paint them, but it's pretty cool. So you could check that out.
Is it cool mini or not? Is it one of theirs?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I've just found it on Amazon where they're saying $125. So there's a lot of minis. So it's certainly worth. That would be 90, 80 quid, 60.
Yeah, I believe it's 72 minis in there. But yeah, if you check out the warlords that are in there, the sculpts are so cool.
Yeah, they are
really barbaric and cool. So that was the big thing that I've seen recently. That's neat.
Yeah, that's cool.
I'm definitely going to break out the blue stuff or the Onimaru or whatever they call them and do some casting of some of the different totems and everything to try to put it on my Space Wolves.
Yes.
So, but yeah.
Brilliant. Well, that's cool. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
No, I've got to try and convince myself I don't need to spend 80 quid on the box game.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that brings us to the end of episode 65. Thank you so much for joining us, Jason. It's been a real pleasure.
Yeah, it was great. I enjoyed it a lot. Thanks for having me on. I love your guys' show. You guys are really genuine. One of my favorite things is when you say grab your refreshments. It's just, I don't know, there's just something so wholesome about it. It's great. So it's been a lot of fun. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure. You can find Valbjorn on Instagram and YouTube. Valbjorn is spelled VALBJORN. No one else comes up when you search that, so you shouldn't have any trouble. Are you on Twitter or Facebook, buddy?
I am not.
No. Okay, so
just YouTube and Instagram.
YouTube and Instagram. You can find us if you're interested on at the 2P's podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and we are on YouTube, but the link for that is in multiple numbers and symbols and whatever until we get enough followers that it actually gives us a name. But if you search the 2P's podcast, we should come up. So thanks for joining us. Thank you, Dan, for being present for some of it.
Being present for some of it.
And we'll see you for episode
some of us work for the postal service and have to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. So midnight is getting on a bit because you're wittering, Mr. Hall.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you for episode 66.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you.